Okay, so this is, you're going to get me on the screen the whole time. So whoever's watching, hello, and thank you for joining me. Let me give you a little bit of background. If you've never heard of me or what I do, I've actually been around for a long time, and I am following in my dad's footsteps, as that lovely little intro mentioned. So I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I was actually born in 1961. So I grew up in this era where modern women were getting all these processed foods to make life easier, like Hamburger Helper and all of these, a lot of fast foods came in. But my parents didn't let us partake of any of that. We grew up in rural Idaho, and we grew up on a big acre of land, and we had huge gardens, and there were 14 kids in my family. So that alone just kind of made us different in a really big, beautiful way, because we've still stayed close as siblings, just all the things that we learned growing up. And when you're in a family that big, the skills that you get are really different. But the cool thing about the way we were raised too is that my dad was a medicinal botanist. So his PhD was literally in making medicine out of plants. And he grew up in a family of 5 boys and 2 girls, and all of his siblings went into their parents' heating and plumbing and electrical business, except for my dad. And when we were growing up, my dad would take us not just on nature walks and teach us about plants, but like if we were driving somewhere, and I have these vivid memories of like driving to church, we're all piled in the car. My dad would see a plant on the side of the road that he would want to teach us about. He would pull over, we'd all pile out, and he would say, okay, you can use the flowers, you can use the stem, this part of the plant, you'd use the leaves or the root. And he would identify it for us. And he would tell us the botanical name, the Latin name, what the common names were, what time of day you collect it. And sometimes we would collect different plants, not just where we were driving, but we would purposefully go up into the mountains, and we would do this. This was normal for us as kids. So I'm second oldest of all of my siblings. And so it was kind of like one of those things where I guess it's not really surprising I carried on his work, but my dad actually passed away 25 years ago. He was actually very young, and I just had my 62nd birthday, and my dad was 62 when he passed away. So it was kind of a bittersweet birthday because it was like, my dad was so young. He was so impactful in the world of herbal medicine. He used to lecture at Bastyr. In fact, when I was in high school, I brought I have a copy of his book right here. If people have been geeking out over herbal medicine, this is a book my dad wrote more than 40 years ago. It's called From the Shepherd's Purse. And I remember when he self-published this book, and it still has an impact to this day, because the properties of herbal medicine and Mother Nature don't really change. And there's a consistency in what plant medicine brings to us. So my dad wrote this book. He had this amazing career of working with incredible people. He spent 30 years studying with E.T. Krebs Jr., and he worked with Renee Casey, who was she developed a formula that's been around for 100 years now. That's an anti-cancer formula. He worked with her. He worked with Dr. Hulda Clark, which, if anybody has been studying and researching and is familiar with herbal medicine, these are some names that you might be familiar with. But this was just my dad. He was always had his hands in plants. There were pots growing all over our house. There was like huge gardens. There were always things curing in jars on the counter. I mean, it was very, very normal to us. And then I think what happened I know this happened for me for sure. As we started getting older, we're like, oh my gosh, our parents are so hippie. We just really are not that interested in, we all my siblings and I, we went through a pretty good phase in our 20s of fast food, junk food. A lot of us experimented with stuff that's available in modern society that we didn't get to partake of as kids and teenagers. So, my youngest brother just turned, he'll be 41 this year. So we're all adults now. And it's like, we've all come back to this natural way of not just taking care of ourselves, but our families and our kids. And, I have a couple of grandkids now, and it has been such a beautiful gift to be able to pass on this deep, rich history and knowledge that my dad passed on. So one of the things that my dad was very well known for, and we're still well known for at this point, is a plant called lomatium. And if anybody's watching this that is familiar with what I do, carrying on my dad's work, then this is something that you might be familiar with. Now, a lot of people have never heard of this plant because it only grows in the wild. And it's never been successfully cultivated. So you can't get a bunch of seeds and cultivate it. It's even actually a little bit difficult to cultivate in the land where it grows wild. And it only grows in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. So you can't, you have to know where to get it. You have to know how to identify it, because the time of the day, the time of year you collect it is in the late fall. And that's when all the properties are the highest, and all of the properties of the plant are concentrated in the root. So you do need to know how to identify it and then how to harvest the root. Now, lomatium, its name is Lomatium dissectum, and then the variation is multifida, because there are different species of the plant, lomatium. Lomatium is what's known as a broad spectrum antimicrobial. And what I have found, and this is after not just my research, my dad's research, so I've been going for 21 years. My dad's been gone 25, and I've been going on my own for 21. But after all of the things that I've seen, a lot of the doctors and herbalists that I have collaborated with, this is, I think its most powerful antimicrobial property is antiviral. So it not only covers a broad range of viruses, but candida, yeast, certain types of fungus, and also some types of bad bacteria. So if you think about a plant that covers those kinds of things, I have my parents adopted 3 Native American children. So they had 11 and they adopted 3. And my Native American brother, when he was adopted when he was 2, and he's now 59. So we're in this range, but he's really dived back into his Native American indigenous people's roots. He's done a ton of genealogy, a ton of research. And he said that the Native Americans called this the panacea. Lomatium is a panacea because it covers so many things. In fact, I will tell people on a regular basis, if I could only pick one plant to take me through this life, it would be lomatium, but just because of the things that it covers. And if you think about the things that come at us as far as virus and fungus and different microbes, it's not that we want to eradicate them. We want to give our immune system and our body the ability to adapt so that the viruses that come at us can just make not only our immune system strong, our microbiome, our virome, all the things that live inside our body and help us get stronger. But lomatium is one of those plants that can really help you. Get over almost anything that has some type of infection. And that is a big, bold thing to say, but this is lots of research and lots of personal use. In fact, what I find is the older that I get, the easier it is for me to say, this is what I've used it for. This is what I've used it for. My grandkids use it for this. And I use it on my kids when they were, when using this for this infection or this, whatever. In fact, when COVID hit, I was kind of like, okay, I had this tool chest of not just the lomatium, but a whole tool chest of herbal tinctures and herbal salves and all the things that I know how to make myself and use in my own family. So I think that lomatium is definitely something that people could take a look at. Now, I would compare it to something like chaparral, oil of oregano, different antimicrobials that some people might be used to using. Echinacea is a good one. Echinacea, I feel like, is more like wound healing, immune system, stimulates the immune system. But if you want a really heavy hitter, lomatium is one of those things. Now, one of the things I also love for going after infections is OSHA root, and it has a real affinity for the lungs and infections and things that tend to sit in the lungs. Same with like lobelia and mullein. These are the kind of things that are really, really good for infections in the lungs. Now, there is something about lomatium that we do everything we can to educate people on, because this can be a little bit of a scary thing, even though if you understand it, it loses all its scare power. So there's about 10% of the people who use lomatium for the first time that will get a full body one-time detox rash. And all of the years that I've been going on my own, and even all the years that my dad was around, I have seen thousands and thousands of rashes at this point. And it's very, very predictable the way it comes on. So what we find is if someone starts using lomatium, then it's usually between days 5 and 7 that they will break out in this detox rash. And it is, for most people, head to toe, full body rash. But like I said, it is very predictable. And the fact that it doesn't come on the first day, that shows you that it's not an allergic reaction, because I'll have people that will be like, this looks exactly like an allergic reaction. It kind of has a measles type of look, and there's a whole period of time where there's kind of a little bit of it getting worse before it gets better. And what I have come to believe is that if your body finally has a tool to eradicate a viral load, so think about something like Epstein-Barr, 95% of the world, the population of the world has some type of Epstein-Barr. Shingles, herpes, mono, all of these live under the umbrella of Epstein-Barr. And for the most part, a lot of us just live with it because our bodies have adapted. And unless we have high moments of stress, because as you know, like a herpes outbreak or a shingles outbreak is brought on by high levels of stress, then our body, or if we say we've had a ton of antibiotics, we maybe are on a lot of medications, we don't have a clean diet, we don't meditate, we don't get out in nature, we don't do things to help our body stay grounded to the earth, which is the story for most modern humans, or at least modern people in the Western world for sure. But what I found is when people finally get a tool to eradicate a viral load, and this actually happened to my own husband, and I'll tell you that story in 1 second, but I believe that their body now has this tool, and your liver, which is one of your major detox organs, is not prepared or maybe healthy enough for some people, because it doesn't happen to everybody, but your liver's not healthy enough to handle how fast this detox comes. And your skin, as your largest organ, is simply helping you out, which is such a beautiful gift. So at about day 5 to 7, the rash will typically show up for a lot of people where they were having a problem. So say someone has a thyroid problem, whether it's hypo or hyper, and they've been dealing with, Epstein-Barr. Like Epstein-Barr is a lot of causes, will cause a lot of problems with your thyroid. Well, the rash will show up for those people right here first, where your thyroid is, and then it will spread. People who have chronic kidney infections or urinary tract infections, the rash will show up on their low back, near the area where their kidneys are. People that have chronic chest infections, rash will show up here. I've had many, many people have the rash start on their stomach if they've had, candida and infections that just tend to maybe settle in the intestinal tract and whatever. I mean, I've seen rashes start on almost any part of the body. The least common place are your extremities, but that's typically where it ends. So the rash will start wherever, it'll spread, and then it will finish out on the extremities. And it is itchy, it's uncomfortable. And for some people, it is a little bit scary because I think as modern humans, we are not used to the body going through a healing crisis on its way to getting well. And this is where what we do is put a ton of emphasis on education, because it's like, this is a product that you will never find sitting on a health food store shelf, because there's just too much of a learning curve with it. I've had people end up in the emergency room with, a bottle of a tincture made from lomatium. We get the phone call and we talk to the emergency room doctors and say, this is what you're seeing, and this is what they presented with, and this is how they're feeling. And a lot of times they'll get a steroid shot because it looks like an allergic reaction. And the steroid shot does nothing. I mean, I've seen many times. So our goal here with what we do in the education piece is we want to upfront everyone with as much information as possible. And then you can make a decision on whether or not you actually want to add something like this into your routine. Because even though herbal medicine, I believe, is so safe and so effective, there is still something that's very, very important about learning what do I need and what amounts, and how am I going to use it in my own family. So over the years, and this was after my dad had passed away, I've developed a protocol to help support and detox the liver, help clear mucus out of the organs. It's a little herbal protocol that we suggest before using the lomatium. And it takes your chances of getting a rash down from about 10% down to about 3%. So I would just say, if this is something that you've never heard of, you can even just do a quick Google search, and the plant is spelled Lomatium, and it's pronounced lomatium. So this is one of those things, like I said, that I would never, ever, ever want to be without. You can also use it topically on, we infuse it into an oil, and we put it in different skin salves. We do this for our own family. You should see in our, almost all of my siblings, we have these little home apothecaries that are, it almost reminds me of like that really old Romeo and Juliet movie where the friar has, he's collecting the herbs and he's doing all kinds of different things with them. And there's all the jars and the things just curing. A lot of my siblings, that is what our house looks like. And to me, I really believe that many, many modern humans are realizing that this is one of the best ways for us to take care of our health and be responsible when it comes to, to doing that. Now, this is where I'm going to say also, you really have to use your common sense. If you have a broken bone, you get in an accident, if you even get an infection with a high fever, you need to go seek out medical attention. I mean, this is not, I've had people over the years say, my son broke his leg, and I'm like, go to the doctor, please go to the hospital. I mean, in a perfect world, from what I envision, and this has been something that I feel is super, super important, is we will take the best of Western medicine, the best of natural medicine, modern medicine, natural medicine, and they will marry. Because if you think about it, there's so many things that we can use to benefit us in the natural realm, and also to help with our longevity as modern humans with modern technology. In fact, 8.5 months ago, I got a full knee replacement, and I had a water ski accident 25 years ago. It messed up my leg, it messed up my knee, and it got worse and worse and worse. And finally, last year, I was able to get a full knee replacement. And the crazy thing is the beautiful thing is because of the knowledge that I have, I was able to use all of the herbs that are in my own personal arsenal and my knowledge. And I didn't have to go on any pain medication for inflammation after I had my knee surgery. And that was I had never had surgery. And this was the first surgery that I had ever had. I'm not on any medications. And of course, there's a little protocol of things that they want you to be on to help with inflammation, to help with pain, to help with, so that you can sleep, or maybe you're having problems with constipation or nausea or whatever. And I have this amazing toolbox of herbal medicine that I had a great conversation with the orthopedic surgeon. So when we were getting ready to do the surgery, he's like, here's the list of medications I suggest that we always put you on. And I said, well, I'm kind of an herbal person and I would love to do the natural. And he said, well, what would you do? And so I laid it out. Well, okay, he wanted me to go on a drug called Celebrex, which I guess is for inflammation. And so I said, well, I would do cat's claw, turmeric, and CBD. And I would do also the CBD for pain. And I had this whole little list of things. And this is where I really believe he was the third orthopedic that I saw. And I think this is where we really need to tune into our intuition. And if you're going to have somebody doing something really big, like cutting you open and doing something like that, you really need to get a good feel for this person who is going to be taking care of you, because you are in a very vulnerable spot. I mean, it was such an interesting thing for me to go through because it was my first time having any type of surgery. But when I explained to him what I wanted to do, it was really amazing because he was surprised that I knew so much. And I was surprised that he knew so much about the herbs that I was wanting to take and the natural remedies I wanted to use as I was healing my knee. So to me, I think that is a really big piece of the puzzle. Okay, so let me maybe share with you some of the things that I've used as I've gone through life as a woman, and as a woman who's now on the other side of menopause. It actually, I will tell you, it took me a while to even admit that I was going through menopause. I think that as women, even though it's a normal part of life, it's like, I'm not old enough to go through menopause. No. And I think I actually went through some phases where I wasn't even using the herbs that I knew I should at least research and use because I was in a little bit of denial. So I got over that pretty quickly. And there's 9 girls in my family, and most of us are in the older tier of all of the kids in my family. So we started kind of going through this together. And this is where it was actually really super, super fun and super effective. Now, one of the things that I found that changed the game for me was adaptogens. Now, adaptogenic herbs are herbs that literally do that. They adapt and balance your body chemistry. If you think about even modern stress, so menopause here for the side for a second, as modern humans, we are used to modern stress. It's so part of our lifestyle, and just part of that, we don't realize that we're in a constant state of fight or flight. And especially if we don't have practices in place like meditation, disconnecting from our technology, a good sleep environment. If we have our TV on in the bedroom and we have our phone right next to us and notifications are popping, and we don't have this, really good routine for sleep, or whatever all of the things are that many of you listening to this probably have a routine in place for handling modern stress. At least I would hope. So adaptogens literally will help your body realize that you are not running from a tiger. You're not running for your life. It helps to bring your body into balance. And there's some, like one of my favorite herbs is valerian root. And now that is not an adaptogen. What that does is that helps to balance your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And I've used this, like when my mom passed away, there was so much stress, and it was like, okay, I need to just bring the anxiety, bring the stress down. And valerian, along with a herb called blue vervain, those two together, I'd put into a tincture. And actually, that's one of my dad's original tinctures, just kept my body in homeostasis, because as one of the oldest, everybody really gathered at my place from wherever they were living for my mom's funeral. And it was very, very stressful. And sometimes I even get caught in the, oh, I don't need that. Or I forget that I might have these things as a tool, because I try not to even do too many things, even natural things, and if I can keep my diet and my lifestyle clean. But let's go back really quick to adaptogens. So think about things like some of my favorites that I've used, and I still add in every once in a while, are like rhodiola, maca root. Maca root was really, really pivotal for me for about 8 years. And I sometimes will add that into a smoothie, but I don't take it every day like I used to. That helped with hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings. And then the rhodiola was also good. Ashwagandha was amazing. And then I actually used a couple of mushrooms that I still like to use. Cordyceps mushrooms, really beautiful adaptogen, also helps improve energy and gives you stamina and endurance for exercise. So cordyceps mushrooms they're very easy to get. Things like probably the one I used the most was a plant called suma root, Suma. Now, suma is really, really special. It grows in Brazil, and it's the root of the plant that you use, and it's got very well researched, powerful adaptogenic properties that actually affect hormones in a positive way. In fact, from my experience, and I remember my dad talking about this extensively, is suma root will help you either bring your hormones up, or it'll help bring your hormones down. Like if you have too much estrogen or too much testosterone, because women and men all have testosterone and estrogen, just in different levels. But as a woman, even if you're not in menopause or going through menopause, if you're a teenage girl who has her monthly cycle, our hormones are fluctuating every single month. And then as we get older, as women, we have children. Again, you're going through massive hormone fluctuations. And suma root is not only one that just saved my life during menopause, I use that all during my whole womanhood, my whole up to this point. And not every single day, but on the days when I felt I needed it. Now, I did use it every day when I was going through those few years of menopause, and that made a big difference. Now I use it when I feel like I need it. And I do muscle testing. So I do sometimes applied kinesiology and sometimes just intuitive, what do I feel like I need? And if you've never done or learned how to do muscle testing on yourself, this would be something I would highly recommend that you learn. It's something super easy and it takes just practice. And I use this every single day when I have a whole supplement routine with some things I take every day, like fish oil, cayenne pepper. There's things I do every single day, but then I have a little group of supplements that I will muscle test. Do I need this today? And a lot of times I can touch the top of a bottle. So I've got a bottle right here, and I've got all my supplements typically in my kitchen by my teapot. And I will literally, I will know just by touching the bottle if I need that one today, because there's an energetic pull to it and I can feel it. Now, it took me a long time to actually get to that point, but now I can do that. I can do that with my grandkids. I can tell what they need, not just from that, but from something like what they're telling me and how they're feeling and what color are they? Are they a little bit pale? Are they a little bit flushed? There's different things I think that we can learn and really educate ourselves when it comes to taking care of not just ourselves, but our family members as well. And I would just suggest a couple things. Do your due diligence, research as much as you can. And then the second biggest piece of that is that you have to be brave. And I'm not saying put your life at risk. Start with the small things. Let's wrap this back around to Lamasham. I've had many, many people who start learning about Lomatium, and then the thought of the rash completely freaks him out. And the rash that I talked about earlier only happens one time. It's a one-time detox, and it's a powerful, powerful healing crisis. But here's how I would suggest, if Lomatium has kind of sparked your curiosity and sparked your interest, I would start using and acclimate your body to Lomatium when you're well. Don't start using it when you get a bad cold, or you get the flu, or you have a urinary tract infection you need to clear up. Get your body acclimated to it. If you're going to get the rash, get it over with. And then whenever you need to jump on and use Lomatium for an infection that might be a little bit more acute, because you can use it for those and chronic infections too, then you will have the confidence and knowledge, and you won't have to worry about the rash. So that is, if I'm, sharing this with somebody new and they have a huge desire to start using it, sometimes after you do all your due diligence and all of your research, then you have to be brave. And the nice thing about something like an herbal tincture, which is the most popular way that we make it and use it, is that you can start really, really slow. You can literally start with one drop. Now, all of the things that we make that are tinctures are in 190 proof organic cane alcohol. So we always suggest that you add our tinctures, or any tinctures that are that concentrated, to a little bit of water, just to make them palatable, because you can certainly take them straight. And I know that there's been many times when I've traveled overseas or wherever, and I have there's a little group of stuff I never travel without, and the Lomatium in tincture form is one of them. And I've had many times when I haven't had access to water right then, and I'll just take it straight, which is perfectly fine too, but it is super strong, can make your eyes water a little bit, but super fine and super awesome to take if you need to take it straight. But let's see, I don't know how long we've been going here, but let me maybe kind of wrap up this me talking at you part with, okay, so I showed you this copy of my dad's book. Can't get it. It's no longer in print. You might be able to find it on like Amazon, and I know it's very, very expensive to get. So earlier this year, and this is where I named the title of my book, Be Your Own Shaman. So what I did here, you can see this right here. This is my dad's book updated and doubled. So my dad's original book had 48 plants in it, and I added 46 more. So there's 94 plants in this book. And let me just show you, just so you can kind of get an idea, because this is really, really awesome. So you can see this is gravel root. There's a full color picture of the book. There's an illustration of the plant, a full color picture of the plant, I'm sorry. And then there's the botanical name, the common name, the Latin name. It tells you all of the medicinal properties that plant contains. And then it tells you all of the ailments that will go after, that this plant will go after. And you can literally take this and you can identify plants in the wild. So this is really like a love letter to my dad. It's completely self-published, and because it's very niche-y. You think about a book that is, tells you how to go out and identify plants, because a lot of these plants grow some of them grow all over the world. Like one of the plants in here is dandelion, but you'll have to be really careful where you find and get dandelion, because you don't want to pull it out of, most of the time, your yard or someone else's yard, because you don't know what's been sprayed on it. In fact, where I live in Utah, there's a ton of mountains. One of my favorite things is hiking, and I'll collect wild dandelions, the leaves, and sometimes the root of the dandelion, because the medicinal properties are so amazing. In fact, many of you probably know dandelion root is so good for your liver. It's a liver detox, liver support. So the beautiful thing about learning about herbal medicine is it gives you this feeling of empowerment. And it's not just a feeling, it is true empowerment. I believe that as modern humans, we're starting to realize, especially with the advent of the pandemic, that our health is our responsibility. And many of us were not living the type of lifestyle that was conducive to being able to, handle whatever comes at us as humans. And I believe there's been this huge, huge shift in oh, maybe I need to do things a little bit differently. Maybe I need to learn other skills, or maybe I need to find a way to be connected to people who know how to do these things. In fact, I will say one of the things that has been just a gift to me is that all my siblings are so grateful that I am the one that was interested in carrying on my dad's work. Because my dad, when he passed away, his business fell by the wayside for 4 years before I picked it back up, because it was kind of like, my dad was this famous botanist, and he had a degree, and he was just brilliant. And I think for the most part, none of us really thought we could step into his shoes. And so my main reason for restarting my dad's company was to provide these herbal formulas for myself and all of my siblings and all of their kids. And now many of them have grandkids too. So the reason was to keep not only my dad's legacy alive, but keep these herbal medicines that he formulated available for humans. So I would highly suggest that if you have even a tiny sliver of interest in learning how to take care of yourself and your family using herbal medicine, start researching. There's a lot of great information. And I do love the idea of having something hard, a hard copy of a book, because it is, to me, it's like, it's accessible. If the internet goes down, or, that's a beautiful, beautiful way to start. So I think I might wrap it up there. If we've left some time for questions, and I am free for anything that people might want to ask me questions for.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for that very informative talk.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me get on and just spew what I love.
So real quickly, we're now going to begin the Q&A, and just so everybody knows how that's going to work. Actually, you mentioned your father's book, and you mentioned Amazon. Do you have a book also?
Yeah, this one is mine.
I'm sorry. Okay.
This just came out 6 weeks ago.
And where's the best place to get that?
On our website, because I'm looking for a publisher, but I self-published the first edition of it.
Okay. And your website is what?
Barlow-herbal.com.
Barlow. Can you put that in the chat by any chance, so people have, okay, there's some good information right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Barlow-herbal.com.
Yeah.
All right. And all right, we have that in the chat if anybody wants to go to that website. So thank you for that. Sure. So for the Q&A, what we're going to do is we'll open up to audience questions. I'll ask some questions. For the audience, we don't take any questions directly from chat. What we do is we ask you to raise your hand in Zoom. If you're not familiar with how to do that, what you need to do is go to the button second from the right at the bottom of the Zoom window called Reactions. You'll click on that, and then you'll click on the raise hand function in the pop-up menu. When I call on you, I'll ask you to state where you're from and to ask your question. And we'll just ask that your questions are brief and on topic. So want to go ahead, and I will throw the first question to Michelle, where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm calling for my granddaughter. I'm in Sacramento area. She's in her 20s, and her body for several years now won't absorb iron. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes. In fact, I was talking earlier about the plant suma root.
Can you spell that?
So SUMA.
Okay.
Suma. So S as in Sam, suma root. Suma, even though it's such a powerful adaptogen, also is naturally high in absorbable iron. And
Okay.
it doesn't constipate. It doesn't, like if someone takes an iron supplement, and this, I have experience with that because in my 20s, I actually was low on iron as well. And my body also did not absorb iron, like the supplements that the doctor would give me. But then, of course, as I kind of came back to what my dad was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to come to you for health advice now. He put me on suma root in tincture form, and my iron levels completely, it changed the game for me. So suma is naturally high in absorbable iron. So that's what I would do.
And how much each day?
You know, is she normal body weight?
Tiny bit heavy.
Okay. So if you're able, we actually have it in tincture form. So if you're able to find it in tincture form, I would do like 25 drops, probably twice a day to start. And then I would do that for at least 30 days. And then at the end, maybe see how she's doing, maybe have her levels tested again. And she can even just stay on a daily, maybe 25 drops once a day, or she can even stay on it twice a day if she needs to, and while her levels normalize. But I would do it twice a day, 25 drops twice a day for at least 30 days, just to see, you know, get that inner system and let her body absorb it.
Okay. Yeah, she is very tall. She's like 6 foot.
Okay.
So would that change anything?
No, I'd start with that.
Okay.
No. And I would do it away from food if you can. If she forgets, still have her take it, because it's not if she'll still get really good benefits, but if she can do it 15, 20 minutes away from food, or just in the middle of when she's not eating, that would be awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. So question about lematium. So first of all, where do we get it? Should it be in a tincture? Or can we trust the brands that would be selling it online? That'd be the first question for that.
Okay, yeah. So lomatium it's the part of the root that you collect. The root is the best time to harvest it is in the late fall. That's when all the properties are the highest. And then when we pull the root out of the ground, we chop it up within 24 hours and we lay it on drying racks, and it has to oxidize. That's partly what gives it its properties. Now, there are some people who will, and I know actually at this point, quite a few herbalists and even herbal companies that make a lomatium, but there's a couple of things. If they don't oxidize the root first, and they just put it into tincture as a fresh root, you don't get the rash. So even though that can be good, you're not getting the power of the plant, because the oils and the resins and all the constituents of the plant have to oxidize before you actually put them into a tincture. Or even you can put them into capsules at that point too. And also there are a couple of companies, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, it's just, I think the way that some companies prefer to do it is they will do a lomatium, what's called an isolate. And they'll isolate out those oil factions that cause the rash. And so you can take a lomatium isolate, but I believe you're taking away the power of what makes lomatium so powerful. So I would just make sure that it is an oxidized, so it's cured, it's dried and cured before it's put into any product, whether it's, because we make a capsule as well as a tincture of it, but wherever you get it from, make sure that it's been dried and cured, hopefully wildcrafted in the fall, and it's not an isolate. That's what I would personally look for in lomatium.
Okay. And yours is on the barlowherbal.com website.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. And how much should we take? How much should we take daily? And and how long do you take this? Is it just to detox? Is it something that you take regularly? Do you stop taking it after whatever ailment you're taking it for goes away?
Yeah, like there's really no hard and fast rules for it, but here's how I've always used it. Because I've had this, my dad formulated products using it when I was about 14. So I've been using this my whole adult life. So the way I use it is, if I ever travel, if I ever get on an airplane, whether it's in the summer, it doesn't matter, I always take a preventative dose. And for the most part, I will travel with a small tincture bottle and then a bottle of the capsules, the lomatium capsules, because they're really easy to travel with. And when I'm in an airplane or where I'm traveling, I'll just take a daily dose, either a dropper full of the liquid or a capsule or two of the capsules, just for prevention, because your body doesn't appear to build an immunity to lomatium. So you can take it every day which is what I do during cold and flu season. So I'll just take a daily dose for prevention. Now, I did that almost all of 2020 and all of 2021. I just stayed on it every day just because of all of the stuff that was happening in the world. And but then, so now what I've typically done is say I've only ever had one UTI. And I took this is one of the coolest things about Lomatium. It's super safe to increase the dose until it does the job. So if you have an acute infection like a UTI, I took about 50 drops of this, and I just squeezed up the dropper and guessed, you don't have to count it, but I took 50 drops every hour for 12 hours. So I took a high dose, and the UTI I had was gone the next day. I had a really good friend a couple of years ago who got strep, and he knows what I do. We've been friends for 20 years, and he went on Lomatium tincture, and he did the same. He did 50 drops. He couldn't swallow. His strep was so bad. Within about 2 hours, he could start swallowing water, and in about 2 days, his strep cleared up completely. But he was doing a super high dose. So for an acute infection, I have found personally for myself and the people that I've helped, you can take a high dose until it does a job, and then you can just put it up on your shelf if you want, which is how I use it now. And then during the winter, I'll just take a daily dose, or if I get on an airplane. So I hope that answered your question.
It does answer my question. And is it something that can replace traditional antibiotics?
That's how I've used it. So my boys are 40 and 41, and they've never had a prescription antibiotic. And I'm not against them. I think that they can save your life in the right situation. I actually had to go on an IV antibiotic when I just had my knee surgery last year, just because that's their protocol. But yeah, so in my opinion, yes. But this is where I think you really have to use your common sense. You have to, you really have to be smart. And if you need an antibiotic, then you should use it. But then you should also make sure you add in some good probiotics and really reconstitute your gut flora. So yeah, in my opinion, yeah, I've used it to replace antibiotics for millions of things. Well, hundreds.
And what are other herbs that can be used in place of antibiotics?
Well, I love oil of oregano and chaparral. Chaparral is one of my favorite antivirals. I think echinacea is good to have around. Osha root, mullein, lobelia. But I think my favorite is probably Lomatium and chaparral. I think those are my favorites.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to turn to the audience, and we've got Rachel. Where are you from, and what's your question?
Hi, thank you so much, Jane, for the information that you've given. I'm interested in herbal remedies. I come from Nairobi, Kenya, but I'm calling in from Virginia right now.
Okay.
So my question is, I have the book from the Shepherd's Pie first.
Oh.
And my question is, how those of us who cannot go collecting the herbs in the wild, can you recommend a place where we can buy dry materials so that we can make our own tinctures or different things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first thing I would suggest, if you're interested at all in maybe learning to go out and identify some of the plants yourself, I would try to start reaching out, because there's a lot of local people that will do herb walks, and they'll take you out in your local area, and they'll help you identify plants, and they'll also show you how to wildcraft them sustainably, so that you are respectful of the land and the properties and whatever. So if that's something that interests you, I would say any city or town you live in, I can guarantee you, if you start asking and reaching out, there's someone, probably multiple people, who are doing that, who are doing little guided herb walks. Now, the second, as far as if you just want to buy bulk herbs, I actually have two sources that I love. And so you can write this down. The first one is called Star West, and it's one word. So Star West Botanicals. And they have an online website, and you can buy bulk herbs from them. You can buy them in like 4-ounce or even 1 pound bags. And I've been buying from them for things that I cure and make myself for my family for probably 20 years. For the things that I don't go collect myself, that's one of my favorite sources. So starwestbotanicals.com, and just look through their website. They have some great bulk herbs. And then the second one, and so those are that company's in Northern California. The second one is a resource called Mountain Rose Herbs, and that's 3 words. So Mountain Rose and Herbs, and they're also online, mountainroseherbs.com. And they also have the same. They have bulk herbs. They have essential oils. Sometimes they'll have bottles and droppers and things that you can purchase to make your tinctures or whatever. But those are my 2 favorite sources, because sometimes I might not find an herb on one, and I'll go to the other and it'll be there. Sometimes they're back ordered on stuff, but I trust both of them. They have good organic sources as well as some wildcrafted. But those are the 2 sources that I would suggest that you look. Really, really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have fun.
Our next question is coming from Evelyn. Evelyn, where are you from, and what is your question?
Hi, Jane. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I just want to thank you for continuing the herbal traditions. I think we're all going to, in the future, we're going to need them more and more. So my question is about lobelia or other plants that may have nicotine or nicotine effects on them hitting the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors.
Yeah, and this is something I'm super educated about. I'm familiar with it. Like we have a lung tincture that has lobelia in it, and it's got six or 7 other herbs in it as well. And to me, that nicotine piece is it like, if you think about Mother Nature being, I feel like Mother Nature is so perfect that there's compounds that are actually beneficial, and the lung blend with the, and I even am a fan of pure lobelia as by itself. Like to me, that the small nicotine, the nicotinic acid is, it's almost like they think we should take out the oil faction of lomatium that causes the rash, because they think the rash is too dangerous. Now, luckily, lomatium is not as well known as something like lobelia. I don't think it's an issue. I do think there might be people who are sensitive. And this is, to me, where the muscle testing comes in. That might sound kind of too broad, but we forget to tune into that piece of us that is so connected to source and so connected to the things that Mother Nature brings out, that if lobelia is, I've never met anybody who can't do lobelia, even though I'm sure there's those people out there. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So let me ask you, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with colloidal silver.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that instead of antibiotics?
I love colloidal silver. I don't use it very much. I had some siblings and some other people I know use colloidal silver along with lomatium during the pandemic. I think colloidal silver is wonderful. I really haven't had a lot of reason to use it myself. I have some. I have a really good friend who has a little colloidal silver company. He makes some and sends me some, and I think it's really, really good. I've had people use it in place of antibiotics with really great success. So, yeah.
And just for our audience, what is colloidal silver as far as how it's made?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
I really don't. I haven't used it enough, and I've never made it myself. So that's something I don't know.
Okay. We'll have to look that up. So, And are you familiar with food grade hydrogen peroxide? Like, are you familiar with that at all? Like putting the nebulizer, like 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide in nebulizer to deal with health issues. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Two of my dad's formulas that we make actually have food grade hydrogen peroxide in it. It acts as an astringent. It helps the body uptake the herbs better. Like one of the ones he uses it in is an anti-parasitic. So it helps the herbs. I mean, I don't know exactly, I don't use it plain. But I also know that I've heard of many people having amazing results using food grade hydrogen peroxide for even things like helping to clear, like a mouthwash, some candida. So I've had a really good friend use lomatium tincture, a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, the food grade 3% in some water, swish around with it. Amazing results with thrush and candida in the mouth.
Great. All right, great. And is there an herbal approach for lowering blood sugar?
Like some of my favorite herbs for that, because what you want to do is you want to support your pancreas. I love Genema sylvestre. Fenugreek is really good. I also love kelp, because kelp helps to nourish your thyroid. Kelp is, for the woman who is asking for her daughter with the low iron, I would also, now that I'm thinking about it, I would also suggest she get a kelp supplement. You can get it in powdered form. You can add it to smoothies. You can probably get it in capsule form easily. But things like Genema sylvestre actually helps curb your appetite for sweets. And sugar is one of those things that it's so addictive. I mean, it lights up the same part of your brain that heroin does. I'm sure many people have heard that, that you really almost have to say, I'm going to go 100% sugar-free and, let your body become unaddicted. Because if you say, I'm going to only eat 5% sugar, well, you're still keeping that sugar addiction, the flame going. So I would add something like Genema sylvestre, fenugreek, and probably kelp. I would add those three things to help curb your appetite for sweets and support and nourish your pancreas. I was looking at thyroid, pancreas.
And in your book, do you go through stuff like this?
I'm sorry, say that again.
In your book, do you go through stuff like this? Like, in order to lower sugar, this is what I recommend type of stuff?
Yep. Okay. There's 14 sections. The first 13 are the herbs, and they're divided into different sections. And then the 14th section is a little bit more plant identification, and then the whole preparation section. So yes, we go through that.
Awesome. Okay, Cecilia, you're up next. Where are you from, and what's your question?
Hi, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure listening to you. Really learned a lot. I looked up your website to find your book, and it says it doesn't, you don't do deliveries to the UK.
I know the book is brand new out. It's only been out for 6 weeks. Right. So give us a little bit of time. We've had people out of country want us to ship it, and it's like $60 just to ship it. Right. So give us a tiny bit of time. We're working on getting a publisher, and I'm also working on getting it on Amazon. But it is 280 pages, full color. It's hardbound. It's heavy. It weighs 5 pounds. I mean, it's a big heavy book. So be patient, because we have a really beautiful group of customers in the UK, and we love them so much. We would love to be able to send the book there. So check in. We're working on that really hard.
So you send other products to the UK?
We do. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And how do you spell Genema sylvestre, what you just mentioned?
Genema sylvestre. Yeah. Hold on just a minute. Let me.
Do you want to put that in the chat? That'll make it a little easier for everybody.
Oh, you want me to put it in the chat?
If not, you know what? If you say it, I can.
Okay. Because I don't see.
I got it. Just give me 1 second to get to everyone. Okay. Just go slowly and.
Okay. So G. Y, M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, E, M as in Mary, A. So that's Genema. And Sylvestra is S as in Sam, Y, L, V as in Victor, E, S, T, R, A.
Is that one word or two words?
No, that's two words. Genema Sylvestra.
Okay. And hopefully there's no spell check on this here. But
If it's spell check, it should come up. It's
Genema Sylvestra. All right. So that looks good. So, all right. So thank you, Sylvia, for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And when we go on airplanes and, as well as you go to the doctor and we get tested, we get a lot of radiation. Does chlorella help with that? And what about hot water with baking soda?
Yeah, I love hot water with baking soda. I love chlorella, broken cell wall chlorella. I also love spirulina. Spirulina has a lot of good properties. Cilantro. If someone's craving cilantro on your food, that means your body is really, that means you need it. Like if you think about things that we crave, I know if I'm craving bananas, I know that my body's needing potassium. So, but yeah, I would say heavy metal detox, baking soda baths, amazing. Broken cell wall chlorella, activated charcoal is really good. Not necessarily it can work on heavy metals, but that's also good for just, detoxing if you drink too much alcohol or you get a little bit of food poisoning. But yeah, you're spot on with the baking soda.
All right, great. And is there an herbal approach to increasing low sex drive?
Indeed, there is.
All right.
So my dad formulated something. It's a tincture that he called KS10M. So that's kind of an odd name, but it's just a K and an S dash 10 and then the letter M. And what's in this is the plant yohimbe. And yohimbe is a plant that actually stimulates the sexual organs, and not just men, but women. And then there's an herb called passion flower, which sounds really great in a libido type of a situation. But passion flower helps to normalize and balance blood pressure, because yohimbe while it stimulates the sexual organs, it can raise the blood pressure just a little bit. So the passion flower not only has herbs that are good for libido, but it helps to normalize and stabilize blood pressure. And then cinnamon. Cinnamon is actually very good for stimulating the libido. So we have this tincture that my dad formulated. And when I first restarted my dad's company, I did not bring this tincture back because I was like, I don't really want to have an herbal Viagra. I don't want to be known for that. And then because my dad had ran a company for 20 years before he passed, a lot of people knew about this product. So I started getting, hey, when are you going to bring this back? So I brought it back pretty quickly. And I'll tell you, the people that are watching this, my dad had the best sense of humor, because we don't normally tell people what the KS10M stands for, because it's my dad's original name for it, but it stands for King Stud to the 10th Power, which is hilarious. And I've never bothered to change it. I think it's just, my dad was just he had the best sense of humor. He was quirky and so cool. And so, yeah.
And is that for sex drive? Is that for function? How does that help?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Yeah. And he had these little directions about, if you're a man, take this much, 2 or 3 days before scheduled association. And for women, same. And now what we find, and we've kind of, as it's been used for all these years now since I've been going, if someone has a low sex drive, then this is just something you just keep into your daily supplement routine, just once a day. So, and then just when the mood strikes, then everything's just working and ready.
Great. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get some hits on your website from that. All right. So our next question is coming from Gail. Where are you from, Gail? And what's your question?
Hi, I'm from Boise, Idaho. And I'd just like to know if a person gets the rash, how long does it last? And also, is it itchy or is there other symptomatic issues with it?
Yeah. So the rash lasts anywhere from about 2 to 3 days to a couple of weeks. So it depends. And yes, it's typically very, very, very itchy. You're literally having a healing. But what I would suggest, if this is something you're interested in, take a look at we have a PDF of this, a catalog that's 68 pages. And there's 2 or 3 pages of details on how to prevent the rash. And then also what to do if you do get the rash, because like Epsom salt baths, lots of water. And what's interesting, because this is such a good question, Gail, is that this is an emotional detox for some people too, because a lot of times when your body is finally releasing these viral loads, and not only that, as modern humans, we are used to, if we have something that's uncomfortable, like even just say a headache, we'll take something to take that symptom down. Well, this is something you just have to work yourself through. And you might have a couple of sleepless nights. I mean, some people do, where it is really, really itchy. And it's one of those things that we're not used to working our way through a healing like this. And it can be very emotional, but it's not only emotional because it's so uncomfortable, but emotional because you can feel your body healing. Like I've talked to people, and some of the things that I've gotten back from them have blown me away, because a lot of them have been suffering. They didn't realize that they've had this low-grade fatigue or this low-grade, they just don't feel good no matter what they do. They eat clean, they exercise, they sleep well, and then they get this rash. And then some people just start using Lomation, they don't get the rash, and they just feel like, wow, I can't believe that I feel this way, because you get used to feeling a certain way and you think that's normal. But we're supposed to feel good. We're supposed to feel vibrant in these bodies. But anyway, I hope that answered your question. I kind of went off on a tangent, but
yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. With
regard to the rash, how severe is it, or how severe can it be? Is it something that, you may want to do this at a time where you don't have to go out in public because you're going to have a rash on your face and everyone's going to think you have something that they're scared of?
Yeah. And people with like chronic ear infections or sinus infections can have the rash on their face and on their head. Their ears might swell a little bit. I've had people with chronic ear infections, even chronic sinus, their ears will drain a little bit because during the detox rash. And so, yeah, I would say if you're using this for the first time, and I would do it when you're well. Like I said, do it when you're well, you're healthy, you're not trying to go after something, and follow our little pre-protocol. It's on like page 16 of our catalog, and we can just zip it on to anybody on a PDF. If you just you can even go to our website and download it for free. Just put in catalog, and there's a little button you push, and you can download it for free. But I would just say, start off super slow. Once you start onto the Lomation, just do one drop at a time. And then every couple of days, add a drop. And I've had people acclimate like that, and the rash never shows up. And I think that could happen with anybody who's interested.
All right, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
What are the most important supplements that you think, or herbs that everyone should be taking, and also kids should be taking?
Well, I think adults, one of my favorite herbs is cayenne pepper. And I don't like hot, spicy foods. So I don't add cayenne to the foods I eat because I'm super sensitive to heat. I like a teeny bit of spice, but cayenne pepper is really, really good for your vascular system. It's a vasodilator. It's really good for heart health. And it's also, here's a really quick story. When I was 14, we grew up in Idaho, and you can get your daytime driver's license when you're 14 in Idaho, because a lot of the kids they're farm kids, and they need them to drive some of the farm equipment. So even though we weren't farm kids, we lived out in a place where we could go get our driver's license. So on my 14th birthday, my dad took me out for a driving lesson. And we stopped to get gas at this little rural gas station. And this was, of course, a long time ago, way before you could put your card into the gas station pump. And we went in to pay, and there was an older couple at the cash register. And classic, the guy clutched his heart and collapsed onto the floor. And my dad carried two things with him all the time. In his left breast pocket, he had a wad of cash. And in his pants pocket on the right, he had a 1 ounce tincture of cayenne pepper. That was always my dad. He had the cash and the cayenne. And within like a few seconds, my dad was down putting two or three droppers full of cayenne, hot cayenne pepper tincture into this guy's mouth. And this is not the first time I've heard of this happening, but within about 30 seconds, the man was sputtering a little bit, and his eyes were watering because of the cayenne. And the ambulance was called. It took about 20 minutes to get there, and the guy was fine. My dad followed up on him, and I think it would be a little harder to get away with doing that today in this modern world. But I would say, so cayenne pepper is something I take every day, but I take it in capsule form because, you hear about your heart and your brain, these two organs, they're starting to realize that they do regenerate parts of them, but almost every other part of your body regenerates and becomes new. But your heart and your brain take longer, and they're such critical organs that, so cayenne pepper is something I'd never skip. And then I have an herbal nootropic, which is a brain food. It's nootropic. And it's got things like ginkgo, gotu-kola, ashwagandha, schizandra. So herbs like that, especially ginkgo, which improves circulation and oxygen to your brain. Those are herbs I will never, ever skip, because I don't want to get to the end of my life and not recognize my kids or have cognitive function.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it's not just men who have heart disease and heart problems, it's women as well. And I think that there's not enough emphasis on that. So, I put the cayenne in a little capsule product called Heart Love, and it has some cinnamon and slippery elm in it as well. But, I think that those are probably my two biggest, because heart health and brain health are so, so important.
Thank you. Our next question, I think Michelle has another question for us. Michelle, what's your question?
Hi. Yes, I have a husband, 72. We've been trying for 2 years to naturally lower his blood pressure. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah. So is your husband an exerciser, first of all?
Not like to the gym, but he still does outside lawn maintenance all the time, 2 or 3 days a week. So he's always physically active.
Okay. Yeah. So I definitely have some really, really favorite herbs. And this is actually something that I formulated a tincture about 6 or 7 years ago for high blood pressure. So yes, get ready to write this down. So my favorites are hawthorn, black cumin seed, and we actually put this into a tincture, but you can get black cumin seed oil from a couple of the places that I mentioned to the woman who asked where you get bulk herbs. You can get black cumin seed oil, and you keep it in your fridge, but just like a teaspoon of that a day is really good for high blood pressure. Celery seed, cardamom, which is also a spice, and garlic. And those are all super, super good for getting, I mean, I've had so many people use this tincture in particular and completely normalize their blood pressure. It does take some patience and consistency. You know, a lot of herbs, it's not a quick fix a lot of times. So patience and consistency is always really important when you're healing yourself using herbs and natural things.
So I would get that from you.
Well, we have, it's called BP Support, and it's a liquid tincture, and it actually tastes really good. If you think about, there's garlic and cardamom and black cumin seed and celery seed. It actually tastes really good too.
And how often would he do that a day?
So here's what I would do to start, especially if he's struggling with his blood pressure. I would do like 25 to 30 drops 3 times a day for at least 30 days. And I would do that definitely 3 times a day. And then he can go down to twice a day, and I'd probably maintain it there, especially because of his age. And especially if he's been having issues of keeping his blood pressure in a normal range.
It was 250 2 years ago. We have it at 165 now.
Oh,
but
that's good.
The doctor's mad at him because he won't go on blood pressure medications.
Oh my gosh.
It's just been by asking questions to people like you.
He should be able to get that completely into absolute normal ranges.
So does his insulin spike his blood pressure? Is that a real connection?
Yeah, especially, does he have a problem with blood sugar and insulin?
Well, someone said he should watch his sugar intake, that it spikes his blood pressure.
Well, everybody should watch their sugar intake, in my opinion.
We do that. I was wondering what you knew. And can you tell me what site you have that I order this on? Which one it is? What's your site?
So it's barlowherbal.com. So BarlowHerbal. And if you just go to barlowherbal.com, and if you just even put BP, or you can put BP support, you can put blood pressure in the search, and it should bring it up. And if you have questions, we're a very small team. We're family owned. Both my boys work with me. You can call and ask questions, or if you need help, you can't find what you're looking for, there's a phone number, and you can contact us really super easy.
If it's okay, I have one question for me.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have cataract surgery, and they say I have a bad eye inflammation. Any suggestions? Yeah,
so that is something that, as far as eye support thing, we're working on, but we don't have anything specific. But I think it's very difficult to heal cataracts with herbs. Now, there's a way to keep your eye health, like ginkgo. Ginkgo is not only good for your brain, memory, hearing, focus, all that, but because it stimulates, it's very well known for what it does for neck up, your brain. It includes your eyes. So I do a ginkgo every single day. Not just for my brain, but I know it's good for my eyes. You need something like, there's a nutrient called lutein that is found in things like eggs, the yolks of eggs. But you can also get, I use an eye support that has lutein in it from Mercola. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mercola.
No.
But he's a doctor, Joseph Mercola. And I've been buying some stuff that I used that I don't have, I've got from him. So it's just mercola.com.
And actually, Michelle, you're in luck. Dr. Gordon Sachs was talking specifically about cataracts last night, and an herbal remedy. So yesterday, I'm not sure exactly what time, but his you can go look him up on our website and watch the pre-recorded video. So it's therealtruthabouthealth.com where you registered. And then you can go to look at the videos from the previous days. And his name is Dr. Gordon Sachs, S-A-X-E. And he personally had a cataracts issue that he was taking something for. You can watch his talk about whether or not, how much it worked and what he did for it. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Michelle. I'm going to ask you a few questions here let me get back to my question list here. So I'm going to ask you, about a few different ailments, if you can give us some guidance, like herbal solutions for acid reflux. What would you recommend for that?
Well, enzymes, I would, enzymes are really good. Chewable papaya enzymes are really good. Also, acid reflux, from my own personal experience, and this is definitely not my area of expertise, is caused by lack of stomach acid. So I've actually taken like an HCl supplement when I was having some digestive issues and some acid reflux. But my best, what I've used is as chewable enzymes, chewable papaya enzymes. I don't have a whole lot of experience with acid reflux.
Sure. And how about constipation?
So constipation, things like Cape Aloe, Cascara sagrada. Those are probably my two favorites. Apple pectin, like one of the easy things is everyone should eat an apple a day, unless they have a problem with eating apples. But apples give you not only the bulk, there's the pectin, and you don't want to get caught on using an herbal like Cape Aloe and Cascara sagrada, which are two of my, like I said, my favorite herbs for constipation. Your body can get used to them where you can't have a normal bowel movement because your body just starts to depend on them. So I would say, do a little bit of research. We do have a product called Smooth Cleanse that is a 2-week colon cleanse and can help normalize your bowel movements. And then the goal is to get enough bulk, get moving, get active, drink plenty of water. A lot of people are chronically constipated because they're dehydrated. It's something as simple as that. But and I have I'm glad you asked me this, because it can be more of a problem than I even think about, because I've never really had that problems with that. But I have a really close, dear friend. She's lives nearby. She's in her mid-70s, and she's very, very fit. She takes very good care of her health, and she was having chronic constipation. And so she did a couple of cleanses. She did some herbs that I suggested. And then what ended up changing the game for her and getting her bowel movements back to normal is she went and had a round of colonics. There's a lady here locally who does it, and she did everything she could naturally, and she started having some success, but then her body was just, but then she went in and I think she had 5 or 6 colonics spaced out just right. And she had some blockages up there that just needed to be cleared out with some good colonics. So that really helped change the game for her.
Great. And how about approaches that we should take to have a healthy liver?
Well, my favorite for healthy liver is super easy, especially if someone's a tea drinker. Dandelion root tea. Dandelion is so nourishing, detoxifying, and supportive for your liver. I also really love milk thistle. Those are probably my top 2. You can get milk thistle in a capsule form. You can also get dandelion in capsule form. And we actually do a capsule product called Liver Love. And this is one thing we suggest that you take prior to using lomatium, because it helps to support and detox and nourish the liver. So yeah, I would say if you drink alcohol, you should definitely take a liver support as often as you can, even if it's just drinking dandelion tea every day. Those are my favorites, especially the dandelion and the milk thistle.
Thank you so much. All right, next question is coming from Leonard. Where are you from and what's your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm from Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania. And one of my questions was, for many years, I put in comfrey comfrey, the herb in my garden, and it's really pervasive. It grows quite a bit, and I just wanted to know what your ideas were to how to use it safely. I know I've heard some bad things about comfrey, but what would you suggest? I can't get rid of it. I try to get rid of it out of my garden sometimes, but so it's always coming back. I get the root and the leaves. And what do you do with your comfrey if you have it?
Yeah, so comfrey is what's known as a bone mender. And because I had so many siblings and I had a dad who knew herbs, we actually also had a big comfrey plant right next to the front porch of the house I grew up in. And you're right, it's a perennial, it's beautiful, and it's very hardy, and it's a little bit hard to get rid of, but it's also a very beautiful plant. So there were several times that my dad used, he took the comfrey leaves, he macerated them, he made them into a poultice. He mixed them he got some oil. I think the oil he mostly used when we were growing up was like olive oil when he would make a poultice. And then I remember there's two of my brothers, they were totally out playing. There was a canal next to our house, and they were roughing around, and one of them broke his arm and one fractured his elbow. They were roughing around in this canal, and the brother broke his arm, had to have his arm set, but they didn't put a cast on it, but they had it in a sling. And my dad, it wasn't a full break. It was just, it was a fracture. And so I remember my dad getting the comfrey and actually making it into a poultice. And every day he would change it, and he would pack a comfrey poultice on my brother's arm. And it actually healed very quickly. And then my other brother, the same with his elbow, which also had a weird little sling that my dad made. And then the poultice was around the elbow. So it is not suggested that you use it internally unless you really know what you're doing with it, because it can be toxic and potent. And I would say from my experience with comfrey, it's mostly something that's used in a topical application, but hard to get rid of for sure. It's pretty. It's got the pretty pink flowers, and if you can find a way to love it, that's what I would suggest.
Also, one time, my mother put this plant in. I believe it was called borage. And I actually ate a little bit of it, and I got a really severe reaction. I was eliminating through every which way part of my body. And then after that, I was sort of like, I was sick for about maybe a couple of weeks. I'm wondering, I'm still not sure whether it was called borage or not, but it sort of had, the leaves had like a little bit of like I want to say like hairy type, like hairs on it, I guess you would say, almost like a comfrey, which I think has the same thing. I guess would you know anything about borage? I never make borage oil, I believe.
Yeah. I've actually used borage also in a salve, like you infuse it into, and it does have some healing properties to it, but I've never eaten it. You're brave.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Marley. Marley, where are you from, and what's your question?
Good afternoon. I'm from Hollywood, Florida, and I so admire your work and your dad's work. I've seen you speak before, and I actually bought Lomatium because I heard you talking about it, and I researched it. So my question is, when COVID was really happening, like 2020, 2021, my husband and I got sick a couple of times. We never tested positive for it, but I took it, and I took oil of oregano, which I normally take during flu season. And I can vouch for it. It really works great. Can I mix those two? Because I did. And I added another herb that I don't remember if I heard it from your talks or somebody else's talk. It's called Uncalobo. It's UMCKALOABO.
I've never heard of that, but you can definitely blend the lomatium and the oil of oregano. Yeah, I've never heard of that other plant. Is it come from? Do you know where it comes from?
It's South African, and it's it's well known for its effects on respiratory viruses, bronchitis, and sinus. And I've suffered from that many times in the past. I can honestly say, knock on wood, I've been really, really healthy in the last year or two. And I actually added that one, but then I thought about it afterwards, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just too many things. I mean,
no, you should see the stuff I take. My husband sometimes just gets the biggest chuckle out of me because I take a lot of stuff every day. If I get a little bit sick, then I'm like, then I pile it all on. Now there is an herb that comes from Africa that's called cryptolepis that has powerful antimicrobial properties. So it's a powerful antiviral as well. And I've mixed that very safely with lomatium. So yeah.
And that cryptolepis, is that a C or a K?
It's a C. So just like cryptocurrency, it's literally cryptolepis, LEPIS.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for your work. And I mean, lomatium, it's one of my staples to keep in my little medicine cabinet. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
Okay, so you mentioned taking lomatium and a couple of other things while you had during the pandemic. Did you catch COVID? Do you believe that it protected you from catching COVID, or did it mitigate it once you did catch COVID? Assuming you did.
Yeah. So here's my story. February of 2020. Okay. Well, November of 2019, my daughter-in-law got really, really sick, and I'm thinking she had COVID, because it was November of 19. And then February of 2020, I caught something. And this was before March. So this was February. And all my little coworkers, we all got sick, and then we got over it. And then I never took a test. I mean, we're a small family company and we're a herbal company. So we got to do what we wanted to do. We didn't participate in the craziness as much as some people did. And then I had a curiosity. I was having PRP injections in my knee in September of 2020, and I asked, it was a naturopathic doctor. I said, hey, do you have the ability to do an antibody test to see, because I think I had COVID in February of 2020. And so he did an antibody test, and I had strong antibodies for COVID in September. And then in October of 2022, so a full year later, I had another antibody test, and I tested for strong antibodies. But I never had a COVID test. So I don't, I had it, but I only had it the once. And I obviously got the very first strain, which protected me and gave me antibodies. And so, yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like the herbs that you were taking at the time had any sort of protective or impact on you?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I took lomatium almost every day during 2020. I mean, I hit it pretty hard in February when I was sick. I was taking it, and I was actually down for a couple of weeks, and so I was down with it pretty hard, but I had all the herbal stuff, and then I just continued to take it for prevention, clear for a couple of years. And then, yes, I think it was absolutely pivotal. I think there's no doubt that I was also, I called up all my siblings at the beginning of COVID. I'm like, what do you guys need? And I sent every one of them, because there's a few that live near where I live, but some live out of state as well. And I made sure all of my siblings had, and I kept them stocked on everything, and I got constant calls like, can you send me more of this? And there's no doubt in my mind.
Great. So what about, change the subject off of that. What about good memory? What would you suggest as far as a natural health approach or an herbal approach to improving memory?
So, like I said earlier, I love ginkgo. Ginkgo is very well studied. It's the oldest living tree species. But what I've recently added in the last probably 3 years is lion's mane. Lion's mane is a mushroom, and the cool thing is there's 2 compounds in lion's mane that allows all the properties of lion's mane, which is cognitive function, focus, memory. But these 2 compounds, in fact, I've got them written right here, they're hericenones and erinacines. They actually cross the blood-brain barrier, which is a huge thing. So lion's mane and ginkgo are probably my 2 favorites for memory, cognitive function, and those are 2 I would really suggest people take a look at.
And can you get those benefits from the lion's mane mushroom from cooking it and eating it, or do you need to have it? Do you need to have it prepared properly?
Yeah, you need to have it prepared properly. So lion's mane is definitely a culinary mushroom. You can find it in a lot of places if you know how to look for it. If you're a hiker, you live near places where you can go hiking, and you can gather it, wash it, and then you can kind of tear it into chunks and saute it and put it in soups and stews. And you can even make a really flavorful appetizer with it. It's kind of a meaty mushroom. Mm-hmm. But in order to get the medicinal benefits out of and this is true for most medicinal mushrooms, is you have to do an extraction. So you have to either do a hot water extraction, an alcohol extraction, or a combination of both, because the fruiting body of the mushroom is tough, and you can't get the properties of a lion's mane mushroom out if you just cook with it or chop it up and dry it, and then you have to break open that fruiting body. So yeah, that's a great question.
Great. And do you offer any sort of supplementation on your website with the lion's mane mushroom?
We do. Yeah, it's in a organic extract form, and it's powdered down and it's encapsulated. So it's super, super easy. But yeah, we do.
All right, great. Our next question is coming from Rita. Where are you from, and what's your question?
Hi, this is Rita Patija from Long Island. Excellent information. What do you do for the nosebleed?
Nosebleeds can be a couple of things. They can be if someone has like old root canals. This might sound kind of funny, but if you have old root canals with some low-grade infections, it might start to dissolve some of that sinus bone, which can lead to chronic nosebleeds. So that would probably be one of the first things I would do, is go try to find a biological dentist who can check and see if you have some low-grade infections under some old root canals. And those should be addressed anyway. And then there might be an issue with blood clotting. And I would say, that's not something I'm really, there's probably some type of infection going on, sinus infection, or maybe an allergy. But those would be the things I would check. I don't really have anything I would throw at it, except I would see if there's some type of infection, especially in the sinus bone with those old root canals. That's probably something I would check.
Thank you.
All right. And we actually had a dentist on early on in our talks. I'm actually looking up her name right now, who specifically talked about infections and using a cone beam CT scan. So if you look at our talks again, therealtruthabout.health.com, you should be able to find her talk. It was a female dentist, and her name is not coming to me right off the bat, but definitely worth checking out if you're interested in checking out the infections and how they may cause other medical problems for you. All right. So thank you, Rita. The next question is coming from David. Where are you from, and what is your question?
Yes, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, and I was curious about Lyme disease regarding herbs. I was told or conveyed that cemento, banderol, cumanda, Berber vanilla, and something called biocidin from Biocidin Herbals were helpful. I was curious to know your take on that, and if you have time, what herbs you would use for hemorrhoids. I heard witch hazel is good. Thank you.
Yeah, very good questions. Yeah, Lyme is interesting because those of you, and it sounds like you probably do also know, David, as the Lyme spirochete mutates into the different co-infections, this is where it gets really tricky. And most of the time, people that get diagnosed with Lyme, they get put on round after round of antibiotics, which doesn't address the spirochete as it mutates into the different co-infections. So, and again, I know some stuff about Lyme and herbs for it. It is not my deep area of expertise for sure, but there are some things that we've used and have helped people with over all the years I've been going with helping with Lyme. Now, Lomatium is very, very good for Lyme. And about a year and a half ago, I formulated a product for long haul COVID. And what I found as it was going through the testing phase with a few of the doctors in my database and in my, people that I can test things, used in their practice to test things, is it wasn't only good for long haul COVID, it was actually really good for people with Lyme. So it had Lomatium, it has Cryptolepis, and then it has Chaparral. So those are three powerful antimicrobials, if you think about that. And as the Lyme spirochete mutates, and I've seen Lomatium alone help with Lyme. And it does take some patience. It takes a while. You have to be really patient and consistent. But with the addition of the Cryptolepis and the Chaparral, which, like I said, this was designed to go after long haul symptoms, and then they started using it for Lyme, very beneficial. And then what I did is I added 3 adaptogens to this blend with the 3 antimicrobials. I added Suma root. I added 2 adaptogens, Suma and holy basil. Because when you not only have Lyme, but you have long haul, you're out of balance. Your body is trying to handle the spirochete and all the different co-infections. Your body's trying to handle all of the things with long haul. And so the 2 adaptogens help to balance body chemistry and bring you into a place of homeostasis while you're working on the infections and the way that they change around too. So the other herbs you mentioned, also good. I mean, I know people that have thrown all kinds of things at Lyme and with good results. And like I said, a lot of times it just takes patience and consistency. And then getting the lifestyle factors and, of course, the meditation, get out in nature. I mean, our bodies are so miraculous. They can heal from anything. And that's my belief from the things that I've seen. And then as far as hemorrhoids, yes, witch hazel is wonderful. I would suggest if you can get witch hazel and infuse it into an oil, which is actually fairly easy. Then you can make it into a salve after the witch hazel is infused, or you could probably find an herbal product that has it. We don't have anything like that, but you can actually get something like a base of coconut oil, some shea butter, maybe even a tiny bit of beeswax just to give it some substance. Put a little bit of vitamin E in your salve to act as a natural preservative, and then put the witch hazel oil in, and yes, very healing and soothing for hemorrhoids. But here's the thing, really quickly, enzymes. I would say enzymes are really good for dealing. There's usually a digestive issue that accumulates in the formation of hemorrhoids, and cayenne pepper, because hemorrhoids are typically a vascular problem. Like, this is all just kind of coming to me as we're chatting. So cayenne pepper and enzymes are really, really good for hemorrhoids.
Thank you for that. And just to follow up with what I was saying about the oral infection and getting that checked out, the talk was by Dr. Michelle Jorgensen, and it was entitled "Answers for Chronic Health Problems Are in Your Mouth." So if you want to check that out on our website, therealtruthabout.health.com. Okay, so we've got about 8 minutes or so. Steve, where are you from? What's your question?
Hi, Steve from New York. I have a friend that's been having episodes of like asthma attacks. His oxygen doesn't crash, but he can't breathe. I don't know if it's anxiety related or also, what do you have to support detox of cadmium and any kind of support for the pancreas? Thank you.
Okay, so asthma, I would use lomatium, very good for asthma. Maybe surprisingly, maybe not. Really good for asthma. We also have a formula that's called Immunity Boost that has, it does have lomatium, it has dandelion, and then it has an herb called red root and a blue vervain and some sarsaparilla. That was formulated initially to help prevent the lomatium rash, but over the years, we've had people use it very, very successfully for not just seasonal allergies, but for asthma. So I would take a look at the herbs that are in that. The product to look for is called Immunity. So like immunity, but without the I and just one M, Immunity Boost. Take a look at that. Herbs to support the pancreas are things like cinnamon, again, Genema sylvestre. I brought that up a little bit earlier. Really good for the pancreas. And then what was the other question?
Steve, what was the other question?
Cadmium.
Oh, cadmium. I would use broken cell wall chlorella. And if you've never used broken cell wall chlorella as a heavy metal detox, some people can get a little bit nauseous when they first start using it. So I would start kind of small or start like when I had all my silver fillings removed about 20 years ago, I used the broken cell wall chlorella to help my body detox from all the mercury and the exposure that I had from that. But it's also very good for cadmium. So what you want to do is you want to maybe start with, say, 2 capsules twice a day. And then I would pretty quickly see how your body acclimates and maybe go up to 6 capsules 2 or 3 times a day. And you might have a metallic smell to your urine as your body's expelling it because it attaches to the metals will attach to the chlorella and your body will expel it. And also add cilantro to your diet. Cilantro is very, very detoxifying for things like lead and mercury and cadmium, really detoxifying. So those 2 things I would suggest.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great. So, again, go back to the natural approaches, herbs or any other natural approach for kidneys, just general health for kidneys and to protect against kidney stones.
My favorite for kidneys is Chonka Piedra. That's probably one of my very favorites for kidney stones. It's also good for gallstones. Chonka is known as the stone breaker. That's one of the common names for it. One of the biggest things for kidney health is to stay hydrated, in my opinion. But I would definitely take a look at Chonka Piedra. And off the top of my head, I think I might be getting just a tiny bit tired, to be honest.
No worries.
Let me see. I'm off the top of my head. I would do a teeny bit of research, but Chonka is my top for kidney.
All right, and we got about 4 minutes left, so you can relax after the 4 minutes. A real quick question. So you're talking about lomatium. You mentioned by itself, but then you also have some products that blend it in with other herbs. Can you take lomatium on its own and one of these blends? Is that a problem?
Yeah, yes, you can. And no, it's not a problem. I've never had anyone react outside of the one-time detox rash. I've never had anybody react in a negative way when they add other herbs or other antimicrobials. I mean, we do a few blends with lomatium. We do an anti-candida formula that has lomatium in it. That's the main anti-yeast, anti-candida herb. But yeah, I've seen lomatium added with all kinds of other things. And it's a real powerhouse. And it's safe enough to give to your babies. I mean, I gave it to my own kids when they were just a few weeks old, literally lomatium by itself in tincture form, if they started getting a little bit sick and same with my grandkids. So yeah.
Okay. Next question is coming from Lisa. Where are you from and what is your question?
I'm from Jackson, Tennessee. I just got my Lomatium in the mail like 2 days ago, so I'm a little nervous. Your recommendations for herpes virus. Thank you so much for your work.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and I kind of started to mention it in when I was giving my little talk by myself in the beginning. So herpes lives under the Epstein-Barr family. And my own personal experience with it is with my husband. He came to our marriage with he'd have been taking medication for herpes for 20 years. He would get these cold sore breakouts, and he would take this medication when cold sore would come on. And he grew up in a very medical, scientifically based in the medical profession. And then I grew up very herbal, hippie, all of that. So when we kind of came together, it was like, he was like, oh, it's nice. My wife does all these nice little herb things. And he really never participated for a while because he's healthy too. So one day he was getting ready to go on a business trip and he had a breakout, and it was the weekend. He didn't have any of his prescription and he was desperate. So he was like, give me some of that Lomatium. So he took we make it into a tincture called LDM, which stands for the name of the plant. But he took some and it knocked his cold sore down. And when he came back from his trip, he's like, okay, what do I need to do? Because I'd love to get rid of these once and for all. And this was probably 17 or 18 years ago at this point. And he said, I said, well, here's, I would do 3 times a day for 30 days, do twice a day for another 5 or 6 months, and then go down to once a day for another year. Because he's been taking prescriptions for 20 years. And he did have a couple of small breakouts during this time, which is kind of normal as the body's working on keeping the viral loads low. And he actually went in and had a doctor's appointment a little while after that. And the doctor said, what's going on with your herpes? You haven't been in for your prescription. And he was in for a regular checkup. And he said, well, my wife has this little herb I've been taking, and I don't really have breakouts anymore. And so this was, like I said, a long time ago. He actually had a PCR test, which now PCR tests are famous. But he actually tested, it was negative. His herpes virus was gone. And I've had people be on this protocol over these years, and they're able to keep their viral loads low and their breakouts very minimal and sometimes non-existent, but they'll still test positive for having, because I do think we're made up of viruses. So that's what I would suggest. It's for a lot of people, it's not a quick fix unless you're newly diagnosed with it. I have had people test negative only after a couple of months, but they had barely been infected with the herpes virus. So everyone's a little bit different. To me, it's nice to have a tool that you can keep these viral loads at bay. That's non-toxic, that's very, very safe. It's not going to have any side effects. To me, that's a lot better option than going on a prescription drug that might have some problems.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And with that, we are at that time. So I wanted to thank you very much for all of the amazing information. I've got tons of notes here that I'm going to be checking out. If we could unmute the audience, please.
So, thank you. There is this.